Good evening, everyone. Buenas noches a todos. Welcome to the Parent University session this evening. The name of the topic is Support Your Child's Emotional Development. Gracias por asistir a nuestra universidad para padres. Nuestra sesión de esta noche se titula Apoyando el desarrollo emocional de sus niños. Thank you again for joining us this evening. We have our special guest, a team from our district, our social worker team. And this is just a small representation of our team members of that offer services for social work. And so considering the title, we are hopeful that you will be able to leave our session this evening learning a little bit more about how you can support your child with their emotional development. And so I'm looking forward to assisting in answering questions together with our panelists. Gracias por asistir a nuestra sesión, esperando de que este tema, apoyando el desarrollo emocional de sus niños, es un tema que ustedes pueden salir de esta sesión más preparado, informado para poder apoyar a sus niños. So moving forward, what I'm going to do is actually go through some norms. Voy a pasar algunos en la pantalla ahora mismo para poder compartir las normas de la reunión. For individuals that are on the call right now and need interpretation, Spanish interpretation, I will let them know in terms of how to access the interpretation. So para las personas que necesitan traducción, le voy a decir ahora cómo ustedes pueden acceder ahora nuestros intérpretes que tenemos en la llamada. Por favor, si miran hacia abajo de su pantalla, van a ver un globo y ese globo cuando lo vayan a presionar, que dice Interpretation, cuando lo presionan le va a salir una lista y en este caso solamente es un idioma que vamos a proveer de traducción, es español. Entonces, por favor, presionen español y ya van a entrar de una vez al canal donde van a escuchar la presentación completamente en español. Okay, so these are our brief norms that we would like to share with you. We have it in English and Spanish on the screen. The presentation will be a webinar format. You will not be able to see each other and also only the panelists and the facilitator. The panelists will try to answer as many questions as possible. Microphones of all attendees will be muted unless the attendees raise their hand to ask their question live. Also, a reminder is that the session will be recorded and posted in the district website and also the YouTube channel. This is our website address and wanted to make sure that you had access to that. Here, we just wanted to provide you some guidance. At the very bottom of your screen, you should see the icon Q&A. This icon, again, once you press it or click on it, you will be able to write in a question or share a comment. And so please, you're welcome to do that throughout the presentation. At the very bottom, you'll see also here on your screen, raise hand. And raise hand, once you click on raise hand, you will be able to, you will appear on the screen and we will go ahead and ask you to unmute yourself and we will have you ask your question live. So again, you have the option of writing your question or raising your hand and asking your question live. If you choose to ask your question in Spanish or again, write your question in Spanish, we will be able to translate the question to English and our interpreters will be able to continue the interpretation in the Spanish channel. And again, with raised hand, once we ask you to unmute, we will not be able to unmute you. So it's important for you to be able to unmute yourself. You will ask that question in Spanish and I will be able to help you and translate the question to English. Okay, and again, at the very bottom, you'll see another icon, which is the chat feature. The chat feature is not available this evening. What we will be using the chat for is to insert any links that perhaps the panelists would like to share with you very quickly, or at the very end, we will be sharing with you a link to be able to ask you for your opinion your feedback with regard to this presentation this evening. So we want to make sure, please stay from the beginning to the end. There's a lot of information to share, and we have our experts from the districts sharing this information with you today. And then finally, at the very end, our panelists will exit the session, and we will proceed another perhaps 5 to 10 minutes to raffle off these items that you see here on your screen. So again, the item number 1 is shiny copper color ceramic fruit bowl. It's beautiful. I have it here in my office. Item number 2 is a beautiful wicker round tray, and also a beautiful bright painting. And these were donations from Bob's Furniture. So we thank them in advance for supporting our parent university. We ask that all families, those winners this evening, to please make sure that they claim their prizes within 5 days. I know that we are getting close to the holidays, so we want to make sure that between now and next Wednesday, that you are able to stop by our office to claim these prizes. We will share the address with you a little bit later. And I am going to pass it on to our panelists this evening, and you can then share your screen. So I will leave it with you, Liana, and Rose.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. We're so excited that you invited us, Janet. I'm Leanne Paluso. I'm a school psychologist. I work at a few elementary schools. Right now I'm covering at Carl Loro. I also work at Vartan Gregorian and William DeBee, and I'm one of the lead psychologists for the district.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rose Molina. I'm a school social worker. I'm one of the leads for the district. I work at Juanita Sanchez High School, and I'm on the behavior support team.
And I'm Liana Gonzalez McGee. I'm one of the lead school psychologists. I work at Young Woods Elementary School as well as Times 2. And I'm also one of the school psychologists on the bilingual team. So I go around to all of the schools. So you might see me pop in sometime. I'm going to just go ahead and share my screen so that we can get started.
So today we're going to talk about supporting your children's social emotional needs. Hopefully we give you a lot of different tips and things that will help. So as you know, we just introduced ourselves. We're going to talk about social emotional learning for students, like how you can, as parents, support them. We're going to talk about a specific strategy called the learning pit, how your child learns and what you can do to help support them. And then we'll have a question and answer. So one of our objectives for today is we want to discuss strategies for practicing social emotional learning at home and support your child to manage stress and anxiety. You'll also learn a tool that was called the learning pit. So I know that Janet went over some norms. So of course, you're all muted right now. You can make use of the question and answer icon that's at the bottom, or raise your hand if you want to ask a question, or you can put your question in that question and answer. We can provide slides at the end of the presentation to Janet to send out to everyone if you need them. So what are your burning questions or concerns? How do you know if my child are on grade level? Where can I go to find additional support online? What's the right amount of time to offer my child for a break? What's the best way to communicate my concerns to the child's teacher? These are some of the things that some parents have expressed concerns with.
And these are a lot of the questions that we get at the schools. And it's not always easy to find this information. I'm a parent. And while I know how to do this in Providence, when I go to my own children's school district, I find myself having to call the school and say, okay, how do I get the grades again? Or, you guys are using this test. I don't really know what this means. Can you explain it to me? So I rely on my children's school quite a bit to get the answers to these questions. And so we want to provide you with some strategies on how to get the information, and also just know, like, we all are there. We all have those moments where, like, where do I get this? How do I get this answered? And that's normal.
Not easy sometimes trying to navigate and figure out who to ask or how to access that information.
We have a little video we wanted to share. And this is just, again, the struggle is real. So let me just make sure my volume is up.
We want to just remind you, you're a coach, not the teacher, with this video.
Yes. Because we get, a lot of times we have parents who say, well, how can I teach them this at home? And so this mom is very funny. So let me.
Oh,
I don't know
if hear it, Liana. Just a little technical difficulty. We'll fix that so you can hear it.
Liana, I would suggest that if you can stop sharing screen and then reshare it, and then at the bottom of the screen, you should see an option to select share audio as well.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So now, okay, give me one moment to just
Reshare. It's okay.
reshare, but I also have to rewind the video.
That's all right. It's worth seeing too, because you'll get a laugh out of it. I think we've all been there.
I have children at home, and I can tell you, teaching math for me is not my skill set at all. So I am totally a coach when it comes to that. And I think that we're just trying to normalize for you parents to know that we're not expecting, no one's expecting you to teach the content that your child's being taught at school, but to coach them to use the skills and strategies they know.
Okay.
But this is
I'm not trying to be dramatic, but if sight words had a face, I would punch it. What is this? What is this? Whose idea was this word? Here's me trying to explain this word to my kid who's sounding it out. Great job. Love that. The problem is, see this K in the front? Doesn't exist. Just pretend like you can't even, it's not there. That W on the end, gone. Who needs it, right? So you just ignore the first and last letters, just pretend like they're not there, and just say the two middle ones. No. Do you know what I mean? Me neither. What about this one? Oni? Kids are supposed to just know that this O sounds like a W. I don't think so. I sound like a lunatic trying to explain these words to my kids. See this word and this word? They make the same exact sound. So even though they look like two completely different mother words, they make the same sound. No, it's not TWO. I think that maybe the person who made this word wanted to add a little pizzazz to it. So they just put it right in the middle, just for no reason. You know what I mean? Just so pretend like it's not there. It just doesn't make a sound. It's just there. It's just sitting there. This word, it's read, but it's also red. You just have to know which one it is based on the rest of the sentence. Shout out to all the teachers. Okay, because I can't friggin' do this.
So we really just wanted to emphasize that, it's hard. It's hard work, supporting your child's learning at home. And we all experience it. And it's just really important for us to remember that we are doing our best, and showing that we care and showing up sometimes is the best that we can do. So.
And I think even like Rose was saying with math too, the math is a little bit different than the way we've learned in the past. So it's just supporting the students to try to get them to do their best and just kind of be that cheerleader.
And basically kind of understanding, what does research say, right? So a lot of times we have this emphasis on what homework is and how does homework help? Does homework help? Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that homework helps, nor is homework going to be the complete one end all be all teacher to a skill or a strategy or a new content at school. Learning everything the child is learning at school doesn't necessarily mean anything as well, and or volunteering at school events. So these are things that sometimes parents struggle to even be able to complete. So we want to let you guys know it really is more about setting the expectation that school's important. You expect your child to participate and engage in school, setting structures and routines. So making sure you set your child up after school to have some routines that include school or some type of academic task. And then developing an academic mindset and learner identity. So allowing for your child to make mistakes and providing them with a space to encourage the learning through the mistakes. And then strong communication between home and school. So helping our parents understand the importance of communication between school and home.
And I do want to go back to the homework help and emphasize this a little bit, because a lot of times, again, I hear in meetings that the parents will say, well, I try to help them, but I don't know how to do this. Or I try to help them, but I only speak Spanish and my child the work is in English. Or to be honest, I'm working tonight until 7 o'clock at night. I can't sit down and help my kids tonight with their homework. I want to be there, but I can't be there every single night. Life gets busy. And so it's not about being able to help them do the homework. It's about helping them with the strategies. So saying, okay, you don't know how to do this math problem. If you don't know how to do it, circle it. And then tomorrow go talk to your teacher so that your teacher can explain to you how to do it. So we want the kids sitting down. We want them engaging in that academic time and having conversations with you on what to do when they don't know how to complete it. It's really hard as parents for us to think of our kids not doing something correctly. And a lot of times we think that they're going to fail if they don't complete their homework or if they don't get it right. And that's not what the homework is meant for. It's meant to really let teachers know what kids are able to do independently. So when we help them too much with the homework, teachers might think, oh, they've got it. We don't have to help them with this anymore. They can do it on their own. So a lot of times it's stepping back, letting the kids do the homework. If you don't know how to do it, that's okay. And just helping teach them what to do if they don't know how to complete it. So where they can get help at school.
So what is social emotional learning? Supporting students to manage themselves and their interactions with others in a healthy, productive way. So a lot of the shift that we've come to, especially with what's going on in the world too, some of the highlights that we have is we're fortunate to really look at social emotional learning as well as reading, writing, and math, and recognizing that it's just as important, because we want to make sure that our kids are well adjusted and can cope and have coping skills. So studies show many benefits to social emotional learning. There's increased focus, attention, self-control, and classroom participation. There's improved academic performance. They have the ability to resolve conflicts and their overall well-being and how they look at themselves and socialize. There's decreased levels of stress, depression, anxiety, and disruptive behavior. So sometimes, there's different social emotional lessons that are taught in the classroom, and it's not just reading, writing, and math, but it's how to get along with others, how to start a conversation, what to do when you feel angry, how to calm yourself down, things like that.
And you'll notice that the word social emotional learning is being said a lot in schools now and being monitored and taught in the classroom, and not just by professionals like us. So for a long time, school psychologists, school counselors, school social workers were a driver in the teaching of this. And now our classrooms are embedding this in their everyday learning and having it more of a coaching format. So when we have conflict in the classrooms, there's some coaching instead of it being dealt with outside of the classrooms. And that's why you'll hear it being talked about a lot more nowadays versus how it was back of just a few years ago. So we really want you guys to have a really full understanding of how social emotional learning really aligns with learning math and reading, and how it enforces just the learning to freely happen when we can work on social emotional learning.
And the other thing that another big shift is the way we talk about mental health when we're talking about social emotional learning. I think a lot of us, have heard this idea that mental health problems are when, there's something really significant going on where you might need to be in a hospital. And, we've heard a lot of negative things about mental health problems, a lot of negative words that go along with it, like crazy or insane. And that's not what mental health is. And so we start trying to change the way we think about mental health. So just like physical health, we all have physical health and we all have varying levels of healthy. I am a healthy person. I sometimes get a cold. So sometimes I have a health problem. It's not a big health problem, but I do need maybe to see a doctor or to take some medicine to get back to a healthy place. It's the same thing with mental health. We all have mental health and varying levels of mental health. So if last week, my daughter lost her pet and it was a really sad day. I had like a mental health cold the next day. I just felt down. I felt sad. And so I was having a mental health problem that is temporary. And I needed to use some of my social emotional learning skills to be able to cope and to get through my day and to support my child. So when we're talking about these, addressing mental health with our kids, depression, anxiety, this is what we're talking about. It's about the different levels of healthiness and how we are reacting to the world around us and to the stressors in our lives.
Can I just add, if you can go back to the previous screen, Leanna, I think it's important that also for our parents that are on the call this evening, that these social emotional learning skills are relative to their own, let's say, their experiences, right? Mm-hmm. While they're trying to assist their child, they can also apply some of these skills or strategies for themselves, right? And so I just want to just reaffirm that, or if you can reaffirm it, that yes, just don't, many times when you're assisting your own child, you're actually helping yourself, right? So it's just so that we can make sure that our parents that are on the call understand that this is not just for their student, but if they think about it, this will also, help themselves in their social emotional learning as well.
Absolutely. When I do this with my children at home, I always use we. I always use the word we, because as I'm going through it, I am experiencing frustration with my daughter when she's feeling frustrated. I'm experiencing when she's really excited. When she's sad, I get sad. And so the same things that I'm teaching her, I'm using and I'm modeling for her. And some of the things I'm really good at, and some things I'm not. There are some times where I don't handle things well, but I have to tell her, like, okay, you know what? I need to practice my skills in that area. I got really upset. And so I'm learning all these different coping strategies and practicing them with her.
And as you're talking to your child about how to overcome stress, like you were saying, Liana, and depression and anxiety, there's different things you can do and coping strategies, and you can use that in your everyday life as well. And it does carry over.
So thank you so much. I'm just really excited that we have over 50 parents on Zoom right now. And I'm just like so hopeful that those parents that are on here today are able to pass on the information that they will be learning today to other parents. And also super grateful for technology, because this is recorded and this will be available for families to be able to access to after today. So I won't interrupt no more, so please continue.
And these slides will be available. We're gonna, we can put them in the chat before we go, because there's a lot of resources in here that the parents can use with their children at home.
So there'll be links so that they can use as well. So it would be great.
So I wanted everyone just to take a moment, and I got into this a little bit a moment ago, but think about what it feels like when you see your child struggling with their schoolwork. And just think about a moment where you were with them and they were really having a tough time with school and what that felt like for you as a parent. And Janet, I don't know if there's a way to allow participants to write in or to speak, but I don't know if we can have some people share what are some of the things that they do when they see their child struggling with schoolwork.
Or
What do you do to support them? What helps?
in the way to participate, they can actually raise their hand. They can ask, share their comment live if they like, or add the response to the Q&A and we could see them there. So again, families, you have the choice here to either ask your question or respond to the question out loud by clicking on raise hands at the very bottom of your screen, or clicking on Q&A and writing in your response there. So no raised hands yet and no questions or comments yet.
And it's, I think it's so important that as parents that we share this with each other, because, I wear two different hats. I'm a mom and I'm also a professional. And I'll tell you that even though I'm a school psychologist, when I come home, I can't always do those things that I'm teaching. Mm-hmm. And so I remember when my daughter was 16, she said to me, Mom, you did this all wrong when you were, trying to help me with this. And I was like, what? And so sometimes it's like I have to go to my community of parents and say, okay, she's saying I'm doing this all wrong. What are some other things I can try?
Even with kids, when we have groups, sometimes it just helps so much when you hear it from another student rather than hearing things from us as well. And we all are here to support each other and come up with things that work.
And I think when we think about our child, right, and what do we see when they're having a stuck time, maybe doing homework? For me, I have an 8-year-old who the first sign I see is worry on her face, and then I can't, Mom, I can't. So usually it starts with those words, or you see a sign. And as a parent, particularly with math, it is hard for me to figure out how to best help the math.
Okay, so if anyone thinks of anything that they want to share, they can write it in the Q&A or raise their hand. In the meantime, we're going to move on and go into some of the things that we can do when we see our child struggling. And so, Leanne, do you want to take over on this one?
Some key rules for families. Setting up community and trust. Students need a trusting and caring community to learn. When your teacher gives your child a new task, the student should feel cared for and supported in taking on a new difficult task. So you want them to be able to take risks and go through that struggle, sometimes of trying to figure out an answer and feel that accomplishment of doing it. Learning about your child in order to build community and trust, we must first understand what our kids are good at, what they do best, the struggles they might have, so that we can know when we need to support, when we need to step back. Because sometimes we walk a fine line. We want to see them succeed, and we have a hard time when they get stuck. But we want to just give them that right amount of support and guidance as a coach.
So
we got a comment. Oh, I'm sorry, Leanne. I was just going to say we got a comment from a parent in response to your question. They wrote, it's from Xiomara Soto, and she wrote, I contact the school for tutoring, and I also communicate with guidance counselor. Most of the time, it's not the homework per se, it's the internal struggles children have.
Thank you. So that is wonderful, because that goes right into what this number one is setting up the community of trust. So as a parent, that's what you're doing. You're saying to your child, okay, this is the community that we can go to when you're struggling. Let's talk to your guidance counselor, because I, as the parent, trust them and I go to them. That's going to build your child's trust in them. And sometimes it's saying, you really like your football coach. Maybe when you have questions, you can go and talk to that coach. A neighbor who might be really good with reading, or a teenager or a sibling. And so just helping your kids start learning who's around them that they can turn to when they need help. So that was a great example, Ms. Soto. So thank you for sharing.
We have another comment that came in after.
Great, thank you.
It's from Jeanette Perez. It says, I tell her to take a break, and once she's ready, we go back and try to tackle the homework. It's hard to be supportive when there's more going on with your child and you don't know where to start with help.
Yes.
I think that's great because we can't start anywhere if we're not in our place to be vulnerable and make mistakes and learn, right? So if we're heightened emotionally, or we're heightened and upset or nervous, taking the break first is the first strategy that we would tell most people to do, even in our adulthood, right? So I think that's a great strategy in helping our children figure out how do I reset. But a lot of times, the younger the student, we have to teach how to use a break effectively. So in school, that's what we're trying to gear towards teaching is, let's take a break, but what can I do to take a break so that I'm ready when I come back to the break in a different, more helpful mindset. So we're hoping to be able to talk a little bit about that in today's session, about mindfulness and different strategies that you can use, because most of our kiddos don't know how to take a break. So it's definitely important that we're teaching the skills that we can use during those breaks.
And recognizing when they need to take a break. That's important too.
Okay. So we're going to quickly go through something talking about productive struggle. And when we talk about this, we usually think about this in terms of reading, writing, and math, but this really applies to all areas in life. You know, productive struggle is the idea of facing something that's hard and being able to accomplish it, to be successful. So you're learning something new at the end. And so one of the, if you think back, and I want you guys to kind of get ready with this because we're going to use this in a few minutes. Think back to something that you struggled with recently, to the point that you had to try really hard to figure it out. So something that like the solution didn't come easy. So just bring something into mind, okay? As we go through this process, I want you to keep that hard situation in your mind and walk through the steps and try to see where you fell at each step, okay? So this is the learning pit. And this is the idea of what productive struggle is. Anytime we're learning something new, whether it's how to cook a new meal or solve a math problem, or you know, how do I paint, you know, my living room? Anytime you're learning a new skill, this is the process that we use. We start off, and you know, we always start off where we're like, okay, wait, I think I know what I'm doing, and then wham, we're hit with something. We're like, oh, wait a minute, I don't know what this is. It's not as easy as I thought. And we kind of fall into this pit and we're like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then we realize, okay, I need to figure this out. I need to work at it. And the idea of productive struggle, the productive piece of this is you're learning and you're like, oh, wait, I think I'm getting it. So when I do a lot of craft projects at home. I take on things I don't know how to do. And I watch YouTube videos and I practice, right? And so then I get into, I'm like, okay, wait, I think I'm getting it. And then when I finish my project, right, I'm like, yes, I did it. And so kids do this in school when they're taught, you know, they just figured out addition and subtraction. They think they've got it. And all of a sudden it's like, oh no, now we have to learn multiplication, right? And so you see them, they go right down into the bottom of the pit. And as parents, a lot of times what we want to do is intervene, right? Because we don't like to see our kids struggling. It's hard. And so we want to create this bridge and make it really easy for them so that they can walk right across. The problem is when we do that, they never get their eureka moment, that moment where they feel that they've accomplished something and been successful. So while we may feel like we're making it easier for them, we're also stealing this really great feeling that they get which is what motivates them to engage in that struggle again. A lot of times we shut down when things are hard. And it's this feeling that motivates us and keeps us from shutting down. And so this is a really good strategy. I actually have this image at home for my daughter. My daughter has dyslexia. And so when she's struggling with something, I ask her, where are you in the pit? And she'll tell me, and she knows she has to work hard at it. And when she does something, she feels great. So I use this a lot at home, and we're gonna.
I think, Leanna, if I could chime in, is this want to go across and just get to the other side without touching the pit is kind of our natural instinct as parents, right? So as parents, we see our child is struggling, we know the answer, and we want them to feel success. And we think, giving them that answer, they got to the end of the problem, they succeeded. But like Leanna explained, they missed out on that work they do to make that success. And it's natural for us to just give that bridge. But what we're hoping you guys can see is that you can create the space at home for them to sit in the pit, and you can just be that encouragement. You don't necessarily have to be with all the tools that get them out of the pit, but you can meet them in the pit and encourage them as they make their way through.
And I'll give you another example of how that we use this at home. I have an adult age daughter, and I used to always do her laundry, right? And I always washed it, dried it, put it away. And she, as she was growing up, I could see that she wasn't feeling like an adult. So I stopped doing her laundry for her. And she was like, what? I don't know what to do, how to use the machine. She was just so taken aback. And I was like, well, you've got to figure it out. And I remember the first time, and now this was when she was probably about 13, was the first time she did a load of laundry. She did the load of laundry. She folded everything into neat piles, and she brought me into her room, and she was like, look, Mom, I did it. And she was so proud of herself. And so if I had continued to allow her, or if I had continued to do her laundry, she would never have had that moment of success, and now it's like that independence. She's proud of herself when she becomes more and more independent. And she doesn't ask me to do her laundry anymore. Okay. Sorry, we're not entering any responses here, but going back to that scenario, right? Thinking about the last time you had a really, really difficult situation. So think about where you started before you encountered that situation. You're walking along, you're feeling pretty good, right? And then you encountered that situation. So if you can think, when was it that you realized, wait a minute, this is hard, or this isn't as easy as I thought it was, or I have a problem. And then we fall deeper down. So that point of either I'm confused, I don't know what to do, I don't know that I can do it. It's that you're questioning, right? And then thinking about how you knew that you needed to work hard at this. Because there comes a point where, we tell ourselves, okay, if I work hard at this, I can learn it. That's what I need to do.
And I think, Leanna, that point right there in the pit, I need to work hard at this, is also where we see some of our kiddos say, I can't do this. And as parents, this is where you can come in and change that language to, you just have to work hard at this and you can do it, and that right there as a parent is probably more important to say than knowing what the different things around math, play out. So it's so important as coaches that you guys are also there to meet them where they are.
And recognizing that effort. I think that's important, like you said.
Yep. And then if you can see at that number 4, the little boy has a rope. And we have to teach our children where to find that rope. We don't want to give it to them, but if they don't know how to do a math problem, then okay, when you don't know how to do math at school, what do? Who do you talk to? Are there any apps that you can use? Are there any websites? And helping them remember that there are places that they can go to get the answers. And you don't want to give it to them, but you ask them, so where can you go to get that answer? and challenging them to find their own rope. Okay, and then, as I said, that Eureka, I understand how, that moment of success is what our children need. It's one of the foundations of good social, emotional well-being. That's one of the keystones that they really need to have, is to get through this productive struggle, to feel proud of themselves and to feel successful.
And when they reach that eureka point, or that point of getting through this pit and making it out, they're going to be more confident next time they start entering the pit again.
Okay. So this is one of the things that this is the routine for when we're in the pit. So, and I use this language exactly with my daughter because she knows what the pit is. And I'm like, okay, what does it feel like to be in this learning pit? So how are you feeling right now, Isla? Because it's really important. That's my daughter. She's the one that we do this with. It's important for me to know where she's at, because sometimes it's like you fall into that pit, but you're really excited to learn something new. Or sometimes you fall into the pit and you know it's something you've struggled with and you're nervous about it, or you're frustrated with it. So understanding where your child is at is really, really important, okay? Talk to them, okay, how do you think you're gonna feel once we've accomplished this? So they get that feeling, okay, I'm gonna feel successful, I'm gonna feel good. Remind them of how it feels. What have you done in the past? You know, ask them to imagine times that they've been successful in the past, okay? Remember when you learned, you know, the addition and subtraction? How did you feel? What helped you learn that? Can we use those things now to help you with the multiplication? So helping them remember things that they've done in the past. And then try another strategy if the one you're using doesn't work. A lot of times we get discouraged really easily. I tried something, I don't know how to do it, I'm never going to learn this, right? Mm-hmm. We want to help kids get out of that
that negative.
That negative thinking. And it's like, okay, that didn't work. What's next? All right.
I want to show them that roadmap to how they learn and what strategies they can use.
And share what worked for you as a learner, trying to get back into when you were learning those same things, like what helped you. And again, this is whether, like, I remember trying to teach my daughter how to make rice and saying to her, like, oh, you know, what worked for me was when I took my wooden spoon and I put it in the rice and it stood straight up. That's how I knew my portion of rice and water was like good, you know? And so I was teaching her that because that worked for me. So going back to those things that you know to help them learn. And so we want to be able to help our kids utilize some really good strategies for talking to themselves in their heads, okay? So we want to identify when they're using some negative statements. So a lot of times the negative statements will be like, I always fail at this, or I never can do it. So anytime they're using those extreme words. Mm-hmm. So a negative statement might be like, I never get any math problems right. And so we want to be able to talk to them and not say, that's not true, and just leave it at that. We want to be able to talk to them in a way that, and help them and come up with it in their own heads to counter that. So on my last quiz, I got 5 out of 9 right? So that's never got any right. They got 5 out of 9. So that's right there. If we're training them to look at the evidence, they're countering their own negative statement. And then before that, I got 3 out of 9 right. So they're starting to see, okay, this is the evidence that that negative statement isn't true. And for some time, our kids might need our help identifying and reframing. And so what we would want to help them with is the positive restatement. I'm getting better at math. I do get some math problems right. And it's okay if I get some wrong because I'm getting better. I'm doing more, you know, so it's helping them with those statements.
And even if your child doesn't give you that back talk or it doesn't completely state the positive restatement, you saying it out loud for them is going to help them train that brain to think that way over time. I have an 8-year-old. Math is not her strong suit. And I can tell you, we've done a lot of this evidence talk around, I got 3 wrong last time, or I got 3 right. Now I got 5. Now she looks for that herself. There's no more me even having to voice it. But for a long time, I would say it, and I would be the voice that we're hoping one day she would say, and she would listen. And that can be a coach in itself.
And I as I mentioned, I have a daughter who has dyslexia, and I heard her in the car the other day, and she said, "Oh, I'm not good at reading," and she caught herself. She goes, "But you know what? Let me tell you what I am good at." And she's got so much attitude. She's like, "I'm good at understanding. So when somebody helps me read, I know exactly what they're saying." And so she flipped it around to like, okay, so maybe reading the actual words is hard for me, but I understand. I have good comprehension skills. And so that's keeping her motivated with the reading and keeping her engaged. And she's flipping those thoughts around. And I was so proud of her because she caught herself doing it. The other thing is, as parents, sometimes we fall into trying to make them believe what we believe. So I'm so stupid, I can't do this. No, you're not. You're smart. Well, without the evidence, children aren't going to believe us, right? And so it's really important for us, instead of just giving them that answer, no, you're so smart, saying, well, I was really impressed with how well you did on this. You do puzzles better than any 5-year-old I've ever seen, and you give them that evidence so that you're not just giving them a line, but you're showing them. So that's another important way to kind of support that social emotional development. And okay. So we've gone through a lot of this, but the key challenges are supposed to be uncomfortable. And again, as parents, it's hard for us to sit with it, but it's supposed to be uncomfortable. So allow them to be uncomfortable and be their support, but you don't have to fix it for them. And asking them, helping them get through it by asking them, what strategies can you try? What resources do we have or you have? And how long can you struggle before you need a break? And so we're going to get into this piece because this is really important. We see our kids become frustrated. So how do we help them know when it's time to take a break?
So what recharges or depletes your child's battery, right? So I always say parents are the experts of their children. A lot of times they have so much more knowledge of the things that we're about to talk about than we do as educators. So we are looking for signs most of the time when a kid needs a break. But if we can know this before, we can be proactive. And like we've talked to up to here is how much can you struggle before you need a break. So that's knowing what kind of skills does the child have, or what kind of coping strategies have they used. So the things that we hope to teach you guys is these simple ways that you can feel anxious. But when you feel anxious, what can you do? And anxiety can look very different in kids. And, being someone who works in the high school, what I have seen a pattern is kids have never learned that being vulnerable is part of learning. And so what they do is when they feel vulnerable, they're in that pit and they can't figure it out. Instead of asking for help, they shut down. So what we're hoping to do is at home, we'd love for you guys to also teach to the skill of, if you're anxious, nervous, what are some things you can do? You can write about it. You can find something positive to take that break. Like we mentioned, being able to find a way to take a break to reset yourself to come back. Go outside, create something. So being crafty with something, listening to some music, but also helping that child get through the break to come back and be fresh to start over. I also encourage, if homework has gotten your child to a point where they are completely depleted, it's okay to end homework. And that's where you communicate with your teachers, your school, and say, we tried homework last night, but I could tell that he didn't have anything left in him to do it. You would rather have that occur than push your child through it to a point where there was going to be a repeat of that the following night, because now that feeling is just so set in stone that homework is just so negative. So just keeping these strategies in mind. And I always say with parents too, like, we need our own strategies. It can create a lot of anxiety in ourselves when our child's experiencing anxiety, or a child experiencing really big emotions related to school, related to just maybe their own regulation, and knowing when to tap out. And some of us have people we can tap out with, and some of us don't at home, right? So maybe we're our only parent at home. So knowing when you're available to do this kind of work with your child is good, but also modeling it, letting them see that maybe you need a break. You know what? I'm going to take a break right now, Zoe, because I'm getting overwhelmed by this math work. And when you voice that, you're teaching them and modeling to them that even my mommy needs a break sometimes. I literally just came from my daughter's teacher conference, and they said to me, Zoe always tells us how mommy takes a break during homework. And I can tell you it's very true, because there's times where we do need to tap out, and always remember they're watching, and you're this great model to them to show that we all take breaks. Being in high school, I learned their perspective at an older age. And a lot of times they tell me they take a break, but they feel like they come back to the table, and the problem that they left to is still there when they come back. So again, I can't emphasize the importance of teaching them how to come back to the table refreshed, and how and what that looks like may include you figuring it out for yourself, and then maybe practicing. How about we try to go for a walk outside, and we'll come back and see how we feel. And some of the mindfulness stuff that we're about to talk about will hopefully, really encourage some of that mindful work.
And I also want to say that the breaks are also really good, not just for when you're working on academic things, but when you encounter challenges with behaviors with a child, and there are times where we have to take a break. And I've said to my daughter, I'm getting really upset. I'm going to take a break from this conversation because I need to calm down. Or like, even, if she's being rude, my feelings are really hurt by what have been said, and I don't want to act out in an angry way. So I'm going to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
And so I take that break for myself so that I can come back to the conversation ready to deal with her in a way that is going to help solve the problem. And believe me, it's not perfect. There are days where I argue with her and I know I should walk away, and I just get into the power struggle and I know I shouldn't. But I always feel better when I do take that break and come back and don't get into the power struggle. And the other thing I want to say is staying present is really important. It's at the bottom of the screen. A lot of times we have a tendency to go into the past. So like, this is how it's always been. I'm never able to do this right, or you always do the same thing. Those are all things that happened in the past, right? Or we go into the future. Oh my God, I'm going to fail. I'm not going to do a good job. And we go into those two places, and that builds our anxiety. We can't change the past, and we're not in the future. So we can't do anything about that yet. But what we can do is manage what's in front of us right here, right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so that the problems don't feel so big. Oh, this one's a little fuzzy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we can see it. So the growth mindset is kind of everything that we've talked about, right? Is shifting our mindset, shifting our thinking, and shifting our words that we choose to say to ourselves and to our children. So I can learn from my mistakes. I can improve by working hard. I will never give up. I am determined to do my best. Self-reflection will help me succeed. I can overcome challenges. So these are the things that when you look up or you learn about growth mindset, it's a shift in perspective to see a positive outcome.
And the bottom one says, I can train my brain.
Yes.
Yep.
That is one of my favorite quotes I use. And again, I worked in high school, and I always tell them, we need to stop and retrain the brain. And, by the time you get to high school, sometimes there's been some really developed brain thinking habits. So I always tell them we need to get the brain on the treadmill. We need to retrain it. And it's great analogies because it doesn't go into like there's something wrong or something is broken or I'm never going to fix this. It's nope, we can retrain it. Let's teach it to do something else. So mindfulness for kids. So when we teach mindfulness to kids, we equip them with tools to build self-esteem, manage stress, and skillfully approach challenges. There's a lot of different things that we can show you, and there's apps that kids can use. There are some kiddos are really good at using those tactile things with breathing. Some kids prefer not to do that, where you can do some other body movements that really incorporate it. But when you teach them those skills, and the younger the better, but it really doesn't matter at whatever age, they're going to carry that over and evolve over time.
And so when we share this with you, these are all links, how to meditate. There's some mindfulness activities, some guided meditation, some activities for coping with stress, and then parenting tips.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this says mindfulness for kids. Mindfulness is for everybody. What works for kids works for us too. So, I do challenge you to do these things with your child instead of just saying, okay, why don't you try this? It's really good to get into these routines with them and show them that you are also being healthy, because our kids want to see us being healthy too. Kids worry about us. So taking care of ourselves takes some of that stress away from them too.
And like you said, modeling that and showing them what to do. And so here's a bunch of activities. Go ahead, Leon, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
So there's a lot of activities that you can do for teaching SEL at home. And here are some examples. We're going to put this in the chat so you'll be able to have access to this. So you can look at some of these activities that you can do. And there's different things that, and like on self-regulation, grief and loss, impulse control, and mindfulness.
And so I'm just going to go through and show you a little bit about how these are set up. So these are all lessons. So you would click on these. These are if you click on the lesson, it'll go through and it'll help. And you do this with your child at home. So it goes into how big is my problem. So this lesson here is, you ever, when your kids like overreact to something, like it's this tiny, their favorite pencil broke and they are crying as if the world is ending, right? And so it's helping them, how big is this problem?
One of my favorite lessons to teach kids, because this will help your child realize, is my reaction matching the size of this problem?
Yes. So making sure, so, helping them give a number to it. Okay. This problem, is a 5, but my reaction was a 10. So what do I need to do? So there's some lessons there. There's activities. So when you click on these are all the different activities that you can do with them. There's a little quiz here where they watch videos and then they have to measure how big the problem was versus how big the reaction was. So they're looking at other people and figuring out how to match it up. And then eventually, hopefully they start to internalize some of that. So like, that's one of the lessons. Digital citizenship. This is a great lesson. We're dealing with a lot of online bullying nowadays, and helping our kids stay safe on the internet is really important, because we're seeing more and more research that says that kids who are using social media a lot are having increased rates of depression and anxiety and body image issues. And so it's really hurting their social, emotional, and their mental health. So this is a good lesson. So these are all lessons that are meant for parents to do with their children at home. And then we have some resources down here. This is a parent resource. This was created when we were re-entering into the schools, but we are really in the same place. So it talks about what social emotional learning is. And there are some guides here if you want to learn more about social emotional learning and things that you can do at home. The guide is in English and in Spanish. There are videos for you here that explain social emotional learning, and the videos are both in English and Spanish. And then some more information about the impact of social emotional learning. When we talk about this, I know when I'm having a bad day or when I'm really sad or angry, I am not available to learn, right? And so we have to help our kids get to that place where they are available to learn. And so that talks a little bit about that. This is just some basic information for school. Again, building your community, it's really important to know what's out there, what's available. The Family Community Engagement Office information is here. Different tutorials, because as parents, we want to help you with your social emotional well-being. So providing you with some tutorials around how to use technology. I know technology stresses a lot of people out. So hopefully that helps. And then there's information on how to take care of yourselves, because it's really important. Just like we use the analogy with being on the airplane, and if the oxygen masks come down, you need to put your oxygen mask on before helping children, because if you lose consciousness, you can't help anybody. You have to be available to help. So you put your mask on first so that you can help other people. So it's really important as parents that we take care of ourselves, that we learn, that we know that it takes a village to raise a child, and not everybody has, large families here around them. So when we don't have that support, how do we build it? How do we build our village? And so we want to make sure that, people have access to community supports and different family resources. So these are all different links to help build up your community. These are tips for learning at home with some more resources down there. I think there's a lot going on with equity in education. So we wanted parents to have some information about talking about race with your children, empowering them to speak up for themselves. And also as parents, speaking up for your children when you see inequities and injustice. More information on how to become part of your school community. And then this is crisis support. So if there's emergencies, these are different places that you can reach out to. And then on the very bottom, community resources for housing, immigration, health services, unemployment, food, and other services. And we also have a brochure. Rose, this was.
Yep. So this last brochure we made for families last year, as we saw an increased rise in children experience mental health crisis. So we really just wanted to offer this brochure for families to understand what are the common mental health diagnoses, specifically in teenagers. We saw definitely an increased rise in the crises around mental health for teenagers, and we still do, and what to look for. And I think that, sometimes we overlook things. And as a parent myself, I can tell you, when you start to see some of these things, you want to write it off as something they might just be going through, right? But we really should start looking at these things as signs that may need to intervene. So we just offer some list here of things to look for, and then who to ask for help, and I encourage you all to just remind yourselves that there are school social workers and psychologists in all of our schools. If you find yourself questioning if your child might need some help or may need some assistance, reach out. You can even talk. I know many of us talk with our families. Maybe they'll tell you to reach out. And your teachers, the teachers of your children, can help guide through the resources. Some of the same resources that Liana just went over are also on this brochure. But it's just important to recognize these triggers or these signs and symptoms that your child might be exhibiting. And those are signs to say, like, hey, could we take a look at seeing if this might be something that more help is needed for?
So I know we went a few minutes over. I'm going to put the link for this presentation into the chat. and we can open it up for questions.
Anybody has any questions
you.
for us?
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, that was a lot of information.
Yes.
Wonderful information, especially the resources at the very end, where obviously you couldn't talk about everything. You touched a bit on a lot of stuff. And so I'm really hopeful that parents, please let's maximize the opportunity right now. If you have any questions, any clarifying questions, any comments you would like to share, with Leanne, Rose, and Leanna, please do so right now. Again, you can raise your hand, look at the very bottom of your screen, raise your hand, or just write in your comment or question in the Q&A. I think it's so important that if it's possible for you to just share your feedback right now in terms of, what was a highlight of this presentation that, you can walk away with and just share with us that it will be helpful for you to move forward with assisting your children. That's the goal here, is to make sure that we can assist our parents to increase their knowledge. But also, part of learning this particular topic, or in general, the Parent University topics, is that, you are partners of us, right? Or part of the team supporting your student. And so you can only help if you have the information and understand the information. So I just want to again point out, Leanna just added the link in the chat. So for those of you who might not know how to access that, again, go to the chat at the very bottom, click on the link that's there. Once you open it, and let's say you leave the session, as long as you keep it open, you'll still have it available for yourself to share in your own computer. Okay, so but also just a reminder to everyone that when you logged on to this webinar, you provided us with your email address. Okay, and so we will make sure to forward this the presentation as a link to your email. As long as we have the correct email written, then we will be able to send this information to you. I believe, do we leave the email in the chat? Okay, so someone asked the question, do we leave the email in the chat? You do not need to enter your email in the chat. When you logged on, we asked you to provide the email and your name, and that was the way that you were able to enter into the session. Let me see. Okay. Anyone, in terms of raising your hand, if someone is, feels.
We have Susanna who has her hand raised, and Jared Bernie. So I'm going to go with Susanna first. Susanna, if you could unmute your microphone, please.
Hi.
Hello, Susanna. Thank you. Go ahead. You can ask a question. We can hear you.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you, because all the information that you guys have giving us, it really clarify some doubts that I had, because I have a 8-year-old in 2nd grade that I've seen a change on her attitude and emotions towards the school. She is a happy kid and she loves school, but this year she has been going down a little bit. Last week, out of the 5 days, 3 days she didn't want to go to school, and they returned from the school sad. I've been trying to reach out to the principal of the school, but they are always busy. I kind of have an idea what is happening. But what you all said, I'm assuming that I can just schedule an appointment with the social worker of the school or counselor to see if I can help, because I've been trying for weeks now and I don't have response from them.
Yes, totally. That is something that as a social worker would come right to me. And then I can collaborate with the teacher and we can try to figure out how to best support your child. So I think, and I'm glad that you're able to, I know sometimes as parents, we think we have to go right to the principal, right? But you definitely can reach right out and ask for the social worker. And another great thing is most of our emails too, if you can find out the name, if you can't get the social worker right away on the phone, get the email when you call the main office and you can shoot them an email, because that helps when parents reach out to me that way too.
I do work in the same school that she is. I'm a TA, so
Okay.
I'm a TA and reach out them like directly. I just didn't want to go straight to them and then feel that I'm, like skipping some steps.
Yeah, no, I'd be more than
Oh, I
willing to.
definitely reach out to the social worker at your school. That's great that you work there too, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Susanna.
Never be afraid to ask the question. Like again, I always worry, like, am I being a pain in the butt? But the worst thing that's going to happen is that somebody says, oh, you know what? I'm not the right person to talk to. This is the person, or maybe we need to give it some time. So I would say, when in doubt, always reach out. It's your child. And it's not wrong to do that. You're not skipping steps.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
There we go. For any parent that's on the call right now, we just want to make sure that if you find yourself in a situation where you feel lost, you feel alone, you right away are thinking that the principal is busy. We just shared, please reach out to the social worker, at least ask the staff in the office. But if you still feel a little uncomfortable, feeling like, you're trying so hard, no one is listening. I mean, the Family and Community Engagement Office is here. We work with our colleagues here in the district. And so I added our phone number in the chat. So please just, when you reach out to us, we are able to help and facilitate, your conversations, or if you're trying to reach out to a social worker in the school and you don't know how to do it, just to know that our office is here also to support you. Okay. So again, the phone number is in the chat. The number is 401-456-0686. We have someone else thank you, Susanna. We also have someone else on the call. Okay.
Yeah, we have Grupo de Oración.
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and unmute. If
Thank
you can
you.
please unmute your microphone.
Go right ahead.
Buenas noches. Yo quisiera aportar algo referente a mi niño. Mi niño en su primer año de kindergarten. Y mi niño al inicio, cuando fue a la escuela, estaba muy emocionado por ir a la escuela, pero últimamente él ha bajado como esa emoción de querer ir a la escuela. Él solamente tiene 5 añitos, es su primer año, hijo único hasta ahora, y ahora es que está comenzando a interactuar con otros niños, pero me ha comunicado cosas que le han sucedido y yo he visto también. Le he tratado siempre de informar a la maestra principal de lo que le ha estado pasando con otros compañeritos de la clase. O sea, y cuando lo recojo a la escuela, que le han pasado cosas, trato de informarme con la maestra qué pasó y algunas no me dan la respuesta. Por ejemplo, en una ocasión, quiero poner un solo ejemplo de los varios que ya han pasado. Le pregunté sobre una chaqueta que tenía el niño puesta. Él no la tenía puesta cuando lo fui a recoger y la chaqueta estaba toda empapada de agua. Le pregunté qué había pasado. Él no quería decirme, duró mucho tiempo para decirme. Y eso fue una compañerita que supuestamente, según él, salieron a jugar y le empaparon, pero la maestra cuando le pregunté me dijo que no sabía por qué estaba empapada la chaqueta que él tenía puesta. Simple y llanamente, ese es uno de los episodios. Entonces, a medida de los episodios que han estado pasando, entiendo que eso no es lo que le ha estado afectando para él querer ir como al principio a su escuela. Es cuanto he querido compartir en cómo puedo yo ayudar a mi niño en esa situación.
Okay, so basically she's sharing her testimony right now. She's facing a situation with her child. He's in the first, well, so he's the only child. He's a kindergarten, first time coming into school. He started off the year very happy, but recently has, shown like low desire, let's say, to attend school. Again, he's the only child at home. And so he's recently shown some concerns and no desire to go to school, as I mentioned. She has communicated with the school, but one thing that concerns her is that she has shared, her concerns with a teacher. One specific example was, I guess the student went to school with a jacket. The jacket, I guess, was spoiled or soiled, wet. The student didn't want to tell her what happened with the jacket. She reached out to the teacher. Teacher said that they also didn't know what happened to the jacket. And so, that's just an example, but he still continues to have, no desire to go to school. So she's kind of looking for some guidance in do on her end with that lack of desire to go to school.
Well, so I work in the elementary school, and one of the things, a lot of our kindergartners are struggling because they're coming in out of a pandemic. And so their social interactions for the last 2 years have been really limited. And so a lot of kindergartners are finding it difficult and are having trouble even knowing how to solve some of those social problems. However, I do want to say, with this particular situation, our children pick up on how we feel about the school. And I think when we are feeling that the school is not responding to our needs, it feels like we're not welcome there, right? And so if you're not feeling welcome at the school, then I think it's going to be a place where your son isn't going to feel really happy. And so I would encourage you to reach out to the social worker at the school or to the school psychologist to start building up your community and explaining to them what those interactions have been like. And, I hate for any parent to leave a school feeling like people don't want to answer their questions or don't want to have to deal with them. That is just an awful, awful feeling. And not everybody in the school will make you feel that way. And I'm hoping that there's someone at that school that you can connect to, because I think once you feel connected and welcome and your son starts seeing that you have a team and that you guys are all working together, that's going to be a more welcoming environment for him as well.
And many of the school psychologists and social workers run groups and have small groups that can help. And it would help him also feel like he has a community and to build friendships in a smaller setting.
Okay, we have another person that has a question. Giovanni Taveras, if you can unmute yourself, please.
Hello, buenas tardes.
Buenas.
Es como decir algo. Últimamente los muchachos, cuando salió esta cosa de la pandemia, los muchachos están como muy, pero muy desorientados. Yo tengo la nena mía, empezó el pre-kinder este año. Y las cosas es que últimamente o está en casa o está en la escuela. Una semana sí, una semana no, porque COVID, alguien salió positivo. Y esas cosas sí que pasan, que los niños tienen que estar en la escuela o en la casa. Se desorientan demasiado, no saben. Tienen una semana un ritmo, se saben la cosa, pero ya últimamente como hoy, que la nena mía dura una semana en casa, ya se le olvidó cómo escribir los números, cómo se escribe esto, cómo se escribe el otro, porque perdió una semana de escuela. Y eso es lo que me preocupa más ahora mismo, tener el ritmo con ella, qué hacer, qué esto, y a veces me estreso, y yo digo, yo no te voy a ayudar, Ya estoy cansada y se pone ella a llorar, ¿entiendes? Porque hay un atraso últimamente ahora mismo.
Claro. Okay, gracias, Joven. So mom is sharing that she also has a pre-K student. And one of the things that she pointed out was that she also noticed, obviously, that students, because of the pandemic, some of them are, she's using the word disoriented, but confused, or, but you also have the issue where, you know, she's going to school one week and not going to school another week because of the COVID cases that are happening also at the school, and therefore the students are being sent home. You know, as of today, she was out of school for a week. Mom feels like she forgot her numbers, and so losing, you know, 1 week out of school also, you know, makes a difference, which also brings about stress at home. So mom wants to help, but can't help, says, I don't want to help. And so that causes stress for everyone. Yeah, so mom was just sharing also kind of what's happening, right, in many families.
Yep, and I think that we all, I wish there was a solution to this problem. If someone has it, I'll buy it from you. You know,
I think it's important to recognize, like, I think that, you know, the person who just spoke, that mom, hit it right on the nail. Like, that's where our kids are, right? And being okay that we meet them there. And I think we all have this fear, they're going to lose this, they're going to lose that. The goal is that they're going to persevere through it, right? And I think going back to kind of what Liana said earlier about our kiddos feeling what we're feeling, if we're fearful that our child is losing something, they're going to feel that too. I can tell you pre-K and kindergartners are probably two of the most resilient age levels to be at. They bounce back. And when it comes to learning the numbers and stuff like that, I think really focusing in on making them feel structure, even when they're not in school, is so important. So if you can do a schedule, a calendar in the kitchen, that saved my 8-year-old. My 8-year-old was highly anxious and needed to know when we weren't having school, we weren't having school. I was watching her plummet in her social emotional functioning at home during the prime of COVID. And I did a schedule, even if it meant that morning, I put a cross on the board. There was no school today. This is what we're doing. And this is what at home looks like when we're at home. Oh, there's school today. I circled the calendar, and you're providing some structure and some consistency. I think the mom before that, some things to ask your school for is a meeting with a teacher and a translator, and to ask for some support for your child to feel welcome through some type of lunch bunch group is really important, and a home school communication log. You have those rights to ask for.
and I wanted to add on to the structure piece. There's also things that we can do at home to help with academics that aren't academic. So like when I do dishes with my kids, I'll say, oh, how many plates are we taking out? And we're counting how many plates. Can you sort the spoons and the forks and the knives? Sorting is a math concept. Even sorting laundry by colors, you know, so having, and that's teaching them chores and responsibility. And those skills actually translate into academic skills. So those are things that we can do at home. Having the kids help in the kitchen. We make cookies and cakes and all that stuff, and having them learn measurements and problem solve. We learned how to save really yucky cookies by throwing them in frosting and making little balls. So lots of things that translate into academic activities that you can do at home.
We have another comment. We actually have a comment. It's in Spanish, so I'll read it out loud and then I'll translate it. Buenas noches. A mí me pasa lo mismo como dijo la señora. Mi hija está en kindergarten, tiene 5 años en su primer año en la escuela, y hay cosas que ella no entiende de la clase, como ella no sabe inglés, se le hace dificultoso. Y yo trato de mandar notas preguntando a la maestra y a veces no me contesta. Y yo no sé qué hacer. Nosotros no hablamos inglés. Recién llegamos a she wanted to say país, a recién llegando del país. So mom has a 5-year-old. She's in kindergarten. So her daughter actually does not know English. She doesn't understand the material in class because of her difficulty with the language. She tries to send notes to school, to the teacher does not respond. And again, the parents do not know English. Again, they just recently arrived. So she wants some guidance. I do, if I can just add, just to let you know, or let parents know that are on the call, for our families that might have a language barrier, that right now English is your second language. I think it's important for you to know that all of our schools right now have access to an interpreter via a phone call. So our schools can actually, access an interpreter and be able to assist you at that moment. Now, if you write a note, but you write it in another language, that might be difficult for a teacher to be able to respond if that is not their primary language or second language. So I think it's important, that if they're not responding, that you also, you're welcome to give us a call. We can assist because you want an answer. You see, you want a response. There is another place that you can actually call to be, to receive some support.
So,
Yeah.
can I add to that families can also, like you received the message tonight stating that there was a parent university. Sometimes schools have access to Kinvolved messages, or they actually all have access to Kinvolved messages. And if you had selected that Spanish or whatever language it is your primary language, the message will be translated in Spanish for you to be able to communicate with the school. Because if you write back to that message, it translates for the principal or someone at the school who's managing the Kinvolved account to be able to understand what's being said. So I encourage parents that do get messages from the school to also use that as a tool to communicate and remove that language barrier.
And I'd also like to go back to what Rose was saying before. You have a right to certain things as a parent. And I know sometimes we go in, it's difficult with the language barrier and we feel stuck. And it's important to know what your resources are. So using the family engagement office and calling them and saying, I feel stuck because of this language barrier, but I want answers. We've used Google and because we have some families that have come in that speak Arabic and no one in our school speaks Arabic. So we've had to use Google. And it's not perfect. It has translated some crazy things, but it's better than nothing. So even if you're in the main office, you can say, I want the teacher to call me using Lionsbridge and put that into Google and have them read it. So that they know that you are requesting. And again, if they don't respond to you, then I would reach out to the family engagement office.
Okay, we have one more person that has raised their hand. And I think this is our last question. This is for Mr. Johnson. Is he on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. My questions, I have like about a couple of questions, but because of our time, I'm more concerned about the teacher. I wish there's a teacher on the panel, maybe that can help. But unfortunately, you have the social worker and the psychologist on the panel. So, but I have a kindergarten, 6-year-old, and we're talking about behavioral against the academy. The behavioral is affecting the academy. So, but at the same time, the teacher, we're trying to reach into the teacher to work with that child. But it's like they're referring us to the psychologist, which is okay, and the social worker. But the teacher itself, they'll send home some kind of like a report. But you look at the report, you're looking at a 6-year-old, and the report is like you're in front of a judge and they're crucifying him. Let me put it that way. So as a parent, when we read the report, it's too tough. And like I hear other comment earlier or saying kids go to school, say 5 days in a week, but hardly can he stay up in school in 5 days in a week. It's always an excuse, and the other school suspended. Yeah, the COVID averted everything. Everybody used COVID as an excuse. He's coming from preschool preschool, they do other things differently. I don't want to continue to go. I want to make it quick, but it's a long story. Now you're throwing from preschool to kindergarten, another different school, not the same setup. And COVID is involved. So my point is when he get to this new school now, they don't want to even understand where it's coming from. So it's all about the policy, is our policy, come pick him up. It's affecting the parents. They have to go home. So how do we, and the teacher is not there to defend this. Psychology is helping, they have a plan. Social worker, we talk to them almost every time, and it's affecting the mother's job. So we, in this area, I don't know, let me cut it short because of our time, but we're a little worried. Right now, we are at a point we don't even know what direction to go, to be honest.
So,
Thank you.
There's a couple of really good resources out there for parents as well. One being the Rhode Island Parent Information Network. They are people who can actually come to the school with you, do meetings with you, and help advocate for your child. And there's also the, oh my goodness, Ripen and the, what's the other one?
Parent support network.
Yes.
The Parent Support Network. And so these are agencies that are really good, especially when your child is maybe, having evaluations done or having behaviors that are impacting school that are resulting in suspensions. So when we're talking about some of those policies or things that fall into like the legal end of things, they can provide parents a lot of support. Mr. Johnson, those are a couple resources that might be able to help sit down with you and advocate for your child.
And Mr. Johnson, just if your child does have an individualized education plan, you as a parent can call for a team meeting at any time. And that's something that I would encourage if that's the case.
You can look at increasing supports and see if that's really the right setting or if the child has all the supports they need.
And we also in district have a behavior support team that Ms. Molina is on. Mm-hmm. And when schools are struggling with coming up sometimes with a plan or some strategies to help students' behaviors, they come out, they're an unbiased group of people who will observe and make recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
You have that information, please? Can I have them, please?
Yes. So, Mr. Johnson, you can go to your school and you can ask for the behavior support team to come and observe your child. And the school social psychologist can facilitate that.
And that Ripen and that the parent support network can, do you have those numbers?
I'm putting it in the chat.
So we'll be able to give you those numbers as well.
Okay, that will be on the screen?
Yeah, in the chat.
In the chat, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Well, Jan, I think safe to say we could probably have something like this again.
Of course.
Thank you for having us.
No, of course. No, thank you. Thank you for all the information that you were able to share today. Today is actually our last Parent University session for the fall. We do plan to offer new topics for the spring. And so they will begin sometime in March, beginning of March through May. And so I want to just make sure that parents that are on the call right now, please be on the lookout for those, and we'll begin to promote those late April. But I want to thank our friends here from our district. Again, Leanna, and Rose, thank you so much for this information. We will be sending out again the slideshow presentation to all the families that were on the call today. We reached about 60 parents on the call, and so we're really excited about that. We do have an evaluation and also some raffles that we want to right away move into, but I want to thank and allow our presenters to exit our session this evening. And thank you so much. And you'll be hearing from me for the spring. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you, Janet.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, so for our families that are still on the call, please stay with us. And right now, if you go to the chat, you'll see a link. That link is actually the link that will have a few questions. As soon as you click on the link, a few questions will pop up, and we would like for you to please answer those questions. They will help us in making sure that we understand what you were able to learn from tonight's workshop, but also some ideas, because we're asking you to please provide us any other topics that you might be interested in learning more about. We will consider those and add them to our future workshops. So please make sure that you go to the chat, click on the link that's there, and we'll be able to see your name. And basically what's going to happen is as I announced at the very beginning of the session this evening, we have a few items that we are raffling off. And so they are a donation from Bob's Furniture. So if you go to the screen right now, you'll see that we are right now giving you at least 4 to 5 minutes. The clock hasn't started yet, but it's going to start soon. So that way you have enough time to be able to complete the questionnaire. So please make sure to complete that.
Right now, the form says power of play. I'm in the process of updating it to represent tonight, but just know that it says power of play as tonight's event. So if you have to choose it, just choose that one, but I'm in the process of changing it.
Okay, yep. So if you're already starting to complete the questionnaire, there'll be a question that says, which topic did you attend this evening, which session? If it doesn't say the session for this evening, which was about emotional development, it's okay, just click on whatever topic is there. We will grab your information, so no worries there. But again, just a reminder to everyone, today is the last session for the Parent University. But again, we will have more sessions coming up in the spring. And again, our purpose for these sessions are to make sure that we are providing you the information that's necessary for you to assist your family, but also your students to be successful in school. That is our purpose for, coming together and collaborating with outside agencies, including other departments in the district. And so again, bringing in front of you, the experts that are in our district to make sure that you have the information that you need. I also wanted to remind folks that as of next week, we will be in the winter break. And so just a reminder that between now and then, if there are any concerns, any support that you might need in terms of reaching out to a teacher or someone at your school, and you, for whatever reason, you've tried to reach out to that teacher, or you've tried to speak to someone in the main office and you haven't had any luck, we are here to help you out. So you can always call the 401-456-0686 phone number. That is our office. That number is again found in the chat. And so again, the Family Community Engagement Office is here to support you. We are located at 379 Washington Street in Providence. We're right on the same street as the police station, close to Classical High School, just to give you an idea. So just, know that we're here to help you out in any way that you need. For these items that we're raffling off this evening, I mentioned earlier that you will need to claim these items within 5 days, of today. And so we will be on break as of mid-week next week. So please, if you hear your name, if you see your name on your screen, once we start the raffle, again, your name is going to appear because you are completing the questionnaire. So remember, the questionnaire is in the chat. You press the link on the chat, and we'll be able to grab your name and put it in the raffle. So again, for those of you who are winners this evening, you will be able to pick up your prizes at 379 Washington Street. So please make sure to come to this address and claim your prize. Again, it will be available and it'll be here for you to pick up between the hours of 8:30 and 4:30. After that, our offices will be open just a few days before Christmas, and then the last week of December, we will also be open. Our offices will be open even though school's not in session up until the 31st. So again, we have one more minute. For those of you who still have not completed the questionnaire, please take a few minutes. We really want to hear your feedback. We want to know what you thought about the workshop for this evening. And also reminding you that next week, we will begin school vacation after Wednesday. And, you know, wishing everyone that's on the call happy holidays. So we have a few seconds left. Jonathan or Ida, what does it look like in terms of, you know, the response rate? Is it good? Do we need to wait a little bit?
We have about 9 to 10.
Okay. So again, those of you who are on the call, we are going to have a raffle, but the raffle, you will participate in it by completing the questionnaire that's on the link. So make sure you go to the link. Go to the chat and go to the link and just press the link and the questions are going to pop up. So again, there are only a few questions. You can do it very quickly, but by participating in the raffle is when you will be added to the list to participate in the raffle. Okay, so I think that I'm not sure if responses are still coming in. If not, we can just go ahead and start the raffle. Please should have the raffle starting in a few minutes. Okay, so for the first prize, we have Susana Chinchilla. Very good. Thank you, Susana. And then for the second prize, I believe it was the wicker tray, is Catherine, I believe, Catherine Peña Fiel. Thank you so much. Congratulations. And then I believe the final prize is a painting. Again, all donations from Bob's Furniture. Isidro Rojas Peña. Okay, so again, for our prize winners, congratulations. Please come to 379 Washington Street in Providence. We're open from 8:30 to 4:30 between now and next Wednesday. Please come and claim your prizes. Thank you so much for participating this evening, for all of you. And we want to thank our interpreters, Pedro and Luis, for joining us this evening and assisting us with Spanish translation. Thank you again and good evening.